set the dramatic tone immediately. A brief, shocking summary of what's about to unfold. They were two honors students, twins, polite and well-dressed, ready to board a flight home. But instead of scanning their tickets, the gate agent scanned their skin. Moments later, they were being escorted away like suspects. 10 minutes later, the CEO of the entire airline grounded every flight in the terminal and revealed exactly whose children they were. It was supposed to be a proud, uneventful day. Aiden and Amaya Thompson, 17-year-old twins from Atlanta, stood at gate C-22, their matching blue hoodies from the National STEM Olympiad zipped up to the collar. They had just finished placing third in a national robotics competition, beating out hundreds of teams across the country. Their medals still hung from their necks, clinking softly as they moved. They were young, black, brilliant, and quietly excited to get home. Aiden, with his signature spiral-bound notebook never far from his hand, was the quieter of the two, analytical and reserved. Amaya, with her tightly coiled braids and easy smile, was a natural leader, confident, kind, and sharp as steel. They were honors students, dual-enrolled in college courses, and had never had a single incident in all their travels. They'd flown alone before. Their parents had taught them to be polite, alert, and always prepared. Their tickets were digital. Their bags were carry-on. Their IDs were state-issued and current. They had done everything right. But still, it wasn't enough. The airport that afternoon was calm. Boarding calls echoed in the background, the usual white noise of rolling luggage, security announcements, and families gathering near their gates. The sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The twins were seated in Zone 2, ready to board. Then came the first glance. The gate agent, a woman in her 40s with a name tag that read K. Dorsey, looked up, frowned slightly, then looked down again. A few seconds later, she turned to whisper something to a colleague. That colleague, a younger man in uniform, glanced over at the twins too, his expression unreadable. Aiden noticed first. "Did you see that?" he whispered. Amaya gave a soft shrug. Probably nothing. But when the boarding announcement came and passengers began queuing up, K. Dorsey held up her hand as the twins approached. "Excuse me," she said. "I'm going to need you two to step aside." There was no explanation. No smile. Just a tone that suggested suspicion rather than procedure. Aiden looked confused. Amaya tried to stay calm. "Is there a problem with our tickets?" she asked, politely. Dorsey didn't answer. She was already motioning to the other agent, who reached for a radio. It was a moment the twins would never forget. Not because of what was said, but because of what wasn't. What happened next felt like a scene from a nightmare neither Aiden nor Amaya could have imagined. Without any clear explanation, the twins were told they could not board their flight. The calm confidence they had carried just moments before evaporated in the sterile airport gate area. "We're sorry, but your tickets have been flagged for review," the gate agent said flatly. There was no room for questions or clarifications. Aiden's brow furrowed. "Flagged? For what reason?" he asked. The response was vague, evasive. The staff mentioned suspicious behavior, but couldn't or wouldn't elaborate further. Their words felt like a thin veil over a deeper suspicion, one that wasn't about anything the twins had done. They were then taken aside, escorted away from the line and other passengers. People nearby glanced curiously. Some stared. Whispered conversations floated through the air, eyes locked on the two teens who had suddenly become the center of unwanted attention. Amaya clutched her medal, the edges digging into her palm. Despite her efforts to remain composed, her eyes welled with tears. "We've shown our IDs," Aiden insisted, holding up his driver's permit and the digital boarding pass on his phone. Amaya pulled up the confirmation email from their STEM competition coordinator, proof that this was a planned trip, well-documented and legitimate. But nothing changed. Security personnel arrived to question them further, their tone polite but firm. They were told to wait for additional verification. Time dragged on. The crowd around them shifted uncomfortably, some sympathizing, others looking away. The twins could feel the weight of judgment, as if the color of their skin had made them invisible in a different, more painful way. Amaya finally broke down, tears rolling down her cheeks. "Why is this happening?" she whispered. Aiden's hands shook as he took out his phone. There was only one person he could call in a moment like this, someone who could make this nightmare end. He dialed his father. "Dad, it's Aiden. We're being held at the gate. They won't let us board. They say our tickets are flagged, but we don't know why. Amaya's upset. Please help." The line went silent for a moment, and then Charles Thompson's voice came through, calm but resolute. "We're going to fix this," he said. Charles Thompson wasn't a man who sought the spotlight. Once a skilled commercial pilot, he had spent 2 decades navigating the skies before transitioning into the business side of aviation. Today, he was the CEO of SkyConnect Holdings, the multinational parent company that owns several major airlines, including the very one his children were trying to board. Behind his calm demeanor and measured speech was a sharp mind, a strategist who had quietly built an empire in the aviation industry. His decisions shaped how millions of passengers flew safely every day, though few outside the business world knew his name. Charles was a man who believed in hard work, humility, and family. Despite his success, he insisted on giving his children the chance to live normal lives. He avoided flaunting his influence, encouraging Aiden and Amaya to earn their achievements on their own merits. The twins respected that boundary. They rarely mentioned their father's position in public or even to acquaintances, wanting their talents and personalities to speak for themselves. Today was supposed to be no different. They had come home proud from the STEM Olympiad, eager to share stories with their parents, and nothing more. But fate had other plans. When Charles answered Aiden's call from his office, the calm in his voice hid a growing determination. He wasn't just a CEO. He was a father who refused to watch his children be humiliated because of their skin. And in that moment, Charles Thompson's role was about to change from distant executive to active protector. Aiden spoke calmly but firmly into the phone, explaining the situation with precision. "Dad, we're at the gate. They won't let us board. They say our tickets are flagged, but we've shown them everything. IDs, emails, everything. Amaya's really upset. We don't know what to do." Charles Thompson listened quietly. There was no panic in his voice, only a quiet steel that comes from decades of experience navigating crises. "I'm on it," he said, before ending the call. Without hesitation, Charles picked up his office phone and made a single call to the airline's operations command center. "Put all flights from Terminal 3 on standby," he ordered. "We have an urgent situation at Gate C-22. Hold all departures pending immediate review." Within 6 minutes, the entire terminal shifted into lockdown mode. Boarding gates froze. Passengers were told to stay seated. Flight crews held their positions. The hum of an ordinary afternoon transformed into tense anticipation. Meanwhile, back at the corporate level, urgent alerts flashed on the screens of regional managers and department heads. Texts and emails poured in, orders from the top to resolve a sensitive matter swiftly. At the airport, passengers began whispering, phones were raised to record. The tension was palpable. And then, a sleek black SUV rolled up to the side entrance of Terminal 3. The driver waited as the door opened, and Charles Thompson stepped out, quiet but commanding. He didn't storm through the terminal. He didn't call a press conference. He walked calmly, his presence alone enough to stop conversations and turn heads. The CEO had arrived. And this was no ordinary visit. Charles Thompson entered the gate area alone. No assistants, no security detail, no fanfare. The usual chatter and footsteps quieted as passengers and staff alike noticed his presence. There was an undeniable gravity about him, an unspoken command that filled the room with tension. He approached the gate supervisor, a middle-aged man nervously adjusting his cap. With a calm, steady voice, Charles asked a question that cut through the silence like a blade. "Why were my children detained?" The supervisor blinked, stammering as he tried to find words. "Sir, there were security concerns," he said hesitantly. "Procedures we had to follow." Charles's eyes narrowed. "Security concerns? On what basis? Can you specify what behavior was suspicious?" No clear answer came. The staff exchanged uncomfortable glances. Then, Charles spoke their names, Aiden and Amaya Thompson. The atmosphere shifted instantly. The gate agent's face turned pale, eyes darting away as if searching for an escape. Charles didn't raise his voice or lash out. Instead, with the steady authority of a man used to making tough decisions, he turned to the group of employees involved. "Effective immediately, you are terminated," he said plainly, pointing to 3 staff members who had handled the twins' case. He handed their access badges to an airport security officer standing nearby. "Take these. You will not return to this terminal or represent this airline again." A hush fell over the room. Charles fixed them with a look that left no doubt. "Your assumptions nearly cost this company a major lawsuit. Instead, you've learned a costly lesson." He then addressed the rest of the staff. "This is a reminder that every passenger deserves respect, regardless of their background, appearance, or name." Passengers nearby who had been watching the unfolding drama began to murmur their approval. Some nodded silently, others exchanged glances that said, "This was overdue." Charles turned back toward his children, who had been quietly standing off to the side. "You two should never have had to face this. And you won't, ever again." Without another word, he led them away, leaving the stunned employees and bystanders to absorb what had just happened. Within hours of Charles Thompson's decisive intervention, the airline's corporate office issued a public apology. The statement acknowledged the wrongful treatment of Aiden and Amaya Thompson and promised a thorough internal review. "The incident was unacceptable and does not reflect the values of our company," the CEO of the airline said in a press release. "We are committed to ensuring that all passengers receive fair, respectful treatment." In response, mandatory bias training was rolled out across all airline branches nationwide. Employees were required to complete sessions focused on cultural sensitivity, anti-discrimination practices, and customer service equity. But Charles didn't stop there. Recognizing the systemic nature of racial profiling, he personally donated $1 million to a non-profit organization dedicated to protecting Black youth from harassment and unjust scrutiny. The group provides legal support, education, and advocacy to help young people navigate a world too often biased against them. The story quickly gained national attention. News outlets highlighted not only the twins' ordeal but also their remarkable composure and their father's powerful response. Social media flooded with messages of support and admiration. Aiden and Amaya didn't become symbols of victimhood, they became a reminder of quiet strength and justice. Meanwhile, footage surfaced of the gate agent, the woman who had denied them boarding. In one video, she was seen wiping tears, her voice trembling as she said, "I didn't know who they were. I was scared." That confession struck a chord. Because the truth is, no one should have to be somebody important to be treated with respect and dignity. This incident became more than just a family's fight for fairness. It sparked a conversation about how racial bias can quietly, insidiously infect everyday moments. And it challenged companies and individuals alike to do better. The story of Aiden and Amaya Thompson shines a bright light on an uncomfortable truth. Every day, countless young people, Black, brown, and from other marginalized communities, face suspicion, humiliation, and discrimination in places where they should feel safe and respected. But most don't have a CEO father ready to make a call and demand justice. Many endure these moments quietly, their dignity chipped away bit by bit, their voices unheard. That's why this story is more than just about one family's experience. It's a call to all of us. We must speak out against racial profiling wherever it appears, whether it's blatant or subtle, whether it happens in an airport gate, a store, a classroom, or an office. Respect and dignity are basic human rights. They should never be conditional on who you know, what you own, or how famous you are. Each of us has the power to challenge unfair treatment, to stand up for others, and to demand accountability from institutions. Because justice isn't just for the powerful, it's for everyone. So next time you witness discrimination, don't look away. Use your voice. As Charles Thompson showed us, leadership is not just about success in business, it's about standing up when it matters most. And when we all do that, change becomes unstoppable.